Okay, so the first ESTP type that we're going to talk about is the dominant ESTP. And this is the most assertive of all of the ESTP subtypes or flavors. The characteristics are ambitious, energetic, determined, decisive yet flexible, uncommon in their tactics to succeed. They have that bravura, right? There's like a bravery that comes along with this ESTP, or a seeming bravery. And in Lindebaron's interaction styles, they have more of that in-charge style. So some of the qualities and characteristics that influence their career choices are things like they're really goal-focused, which isn't as not everybody think. I don't know if the stereotype around ESTPs is goal-focused as much as, like, say, ESTJs.
Yeah.
But they are goal-focused. They just have a more open-ended style about it. But there's that assertiveness, that desire to make things happen that very much creates that dominant energy, that sort of assertive energy to the outside world. But in true ESTP nature, they're also very in tune with body language. In fact, all the ESTP subtypes are going to have this as a characteristic, that being in tune with body language, vocal tonality. There's a real sort of tapping into how other people are showing up, but some subtypes are more in tune with that than others. And this ESTP subtype is in tune with that, particularly as it's trying to get things to happen effectively. They're fast logical thinkers. They can quickly categorize, deduce, define. That's all part of being an ESTP.
Yeah.
But there's a desire to have a wide reach. So it's not simply doing these things to play a smaller game. The dominant ESTP tends to want to play a bigger game, which creates a distinction between it and some of the other, or this subtype and some of the other flavors. So they do tend to be business owners, right? Or if they are working for a company, they're probably the head of a major organization, or it's not uncommon anyway. So they're either doing their own thing or they're at the top of a food chain, and that's the wider reach. It could also be something that's even international, right? Like they want as big a reach as possible because they have all that assertive energy. And while they're not really confined to any industry, they really want to focus on meeting practical human needs in as fun a way as possible. So things like aid delivery, live entertainment, health products and services, resort properties, talent promotion, anything that has that capacity to be really needs-oriented and focused on individuals, while at the same time having that flavor of a good time.
This is a fun comment, but I tend to think of James Bond, at least the original James Bond from the 1960s, as this type of ESTP initiative. That goal orientation could also be the mission that they're on, to go get the bad guy or to get the clue or something like that. It doesn't have to be a goal of like, I'm going to go build a building or start an organization. It could be a tactical goal. Mm-hmm. That's what comes up for me.
Yeah. So there's been lots of James Bonds, and there's been a lot of different...
I'm thinking the Sean Connery version.
The Sean Connery version, right, as opposed to the Daniel Craig version. Probably, actually.
Yeah.
Very much so, could be. There is a ability or an ability to bounce back in failure as well. That's that open-endedness.
Yeah.
If they don't get their goal accomplished, there's that sort of flexibility to just kind of try again. And so I don't know if that fits with your tactical James Bond dominant, but
I think he can flow with the emotions.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. It's kind of, he figures it out as he goes. So the thing that I think is really interesting about this style of ESTP, and maybe what sets it apart from, say, STJ types, which I suspect that dominant ESTPs probably mistype as STJs quite often because of that more assertive, scaled sort of goal orientation. I think the big difference is that how focused they are on high customer satisfaction, like that part of them that really cares, right? And I'm not trying to say that STJs don't care about customer satisfaction. I just know it's like one of the things that has to be woven into or baked into getting something done. But ESTPs are particularly focused on it in a way that I think really sets them apart from other types. And so because of that, they determine whether or not they have succeeded based on the response from their customer.
Feedback. Looking for feedback.
Yep, exactly. They're territorial, right? And so they have a tendency to make sure that what they have created isn't going to be poached. And one of the challenges that they experience is a lack of patience. So this subtype does really well in situations where they're entrepreneurs or really making big things happen. And as I mentioned, things that scale.
Yeah. Okay. So, and by the way, just a quick list. We're going to talk about the dominant, creative, normalizing, harmonizing subtypes of the ESTP. I forgot to give that list before we started. We started on the dominant. So what are some, do we cover the jobs that these might lend themselves to? We might have. I might have just forgotten.
Yeah, I talked about any industry, but
That's right.
they want to do they want to be meeting practical human needs with fun. One thing I didn't mention, though, is that part of their patience is actually a challenge with bureaucratic obstacles.
Yeah.
And so this is also something that sets them apart from maybe, say, their STJ cousins, is they really are super impatient when it comes to those kinds of things. And they might also have a temper, so they might blow up a lot.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of faith in gut instincts. And so they tend to get pretty far.
So let's also make a comment before we move on to the creative subtype about the cognitive wiring for the type geeks out there that are following along. How does this show up? Because there's a difference in how their two cognitive functions. The extroverted sensing sensation function is their driver or dominant, and their introverted thinking or accuracy, co-pilot or auxiliary function. There's some nuance here when we talk about the functions.
Right. Thank you. Sorry, I forgot. We want to make this as accessible as possible. So if you are new to type and you just discovered you have ESTP preferences or just kind of trying to figure out how this all works, I want to make it very accessible so that people can hear, oh, there's this subtype that's a very assertive subtype.
Yeah.
Those of you who are type geeks, though, and want all of the jargon and all the technical, so the both the dominant and auxiliary, or first and second cognitive functions of extroverted sensing, or what we call sensation, and introverted thinking, or what we call accuracy, both of them will have what Dario calls an analytic bent, which means that it has an assertive push out energy.
Yeah.
So each cognitive function can have a preference because all of it's input output, right? Like we push our will out to the world and we also receive things from the world. And the analytic version is the energy of us pushing out us onto the world.
Asserting.
Mm-hmm. Asserting, exactly. And then there's a holistic version, which is us more absorbing from the outside world and figuring out what to do with that. And for the dominant subtypes, both of those functions are analytic. They both assert energy out, which of course is what makes them dominant.
That's fantastic. Okay, thank you so much for that. And also the neurochemical involved here, the majority or the, the most sought after neurochemical would be testosterone for this subtype.
Yeah, there's an association with the dominant subtype and the neurotransmitter of testosterone.
Yeah, okay. So let's talk about the creative.